Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and it is time for a book haul. So these are going to be the books I hauled in October, November, and December. I've counted, I believe there's just over 70, so there's quite a few to get through, so let's dive in. First, we're going to start with the ebooks that I purchased. First, I got Witchy Reservations by Stephanie D'Amour. This is the first book in the Mystic Inn mystery series. I believe this is a cozy mystery, and I'm assuming there is going to be some witchy vibes since it's called Witchy Reservations and, Mystic Inn. It certainly seems like one of those cozies that's going to have a fantasy twist, and I'm quite looking forward to checking it out. Next is Mystic Pieces by Adabelle. This is the first book in the Shady Grove Psychic Mystery Series. Again, another cozy mystery series that seems to be a lot of what I choose to get with my ebooks. I'm going to assume that there's going to be a psychic in this one, so again, we're going to have that cozy fantasy thing. I believe I got most of these more towards the October end, so the details are kind of sparse and I can't really look them up because, well, I would do that on my phone and I'm filming on my phone, so I don't have a lot of details, but I'm very excited to have some more cozy mysteries to check out. Next is Misspelled by Morgana Best. This is the first book in the Kitchen Witch mystery series, which again, another cozy mystery fantasy. I'm assuming this one's going to have something to do with cooking since it's a kitchen witch mystery series, so that could be fun. I like when my cozy mysteries have a bit of a theme to them. A lot of them seem to do with food, so this one could be fun, incorporating both the kitchen food aspect with a witchy vibe. Next is Potions, Poison, and Peril by Shay MacLeod. This is the first book in the Deepwood Witches series. Again, my guess would be a cozy mystery that has witchy vibes. I get the feeling that these were probably all in sale around Halloween, and that is when I snagged them because I don't think any of them cost more than 99 cents, though they might have been the ones that were like, you purchase them and you own them. They're not on Kindle Unlimited, but they cost you $0. So again, it is really, really nice to have those kind of witchy vibes. Even if they're not mysteries and they're more just straight fantasies, they could be cozy fantasies, and that is a genre I'm really getting into, so very curious to see what these are all about. Next is A Very Strange World's Christmas by L.D. Lipinski. So this is a mini novella that is part of the Strange Worlds travel agency series, and I'm very, very excited to get to this. I was hoping to get to it this Christmas, but I just didn't manage to get book 3 read in time, and I wanted to make sure that I had read the main trilogy before I moved on to this one because I wasn't sure exactly when it took place, so I figured it was safer to read the third book and then this one. That way, if it happens after book 3, I wasn't accidentally spoiling myself. I absolutely adore the series. So in this series, we're following a young girl named Flick who has moved to a new town and ends up stumbling across the Strange World travel agency where she finds out that there are suitcases that lead to other worlds, and she is one of the people that is capable of using them. Like I said, I absolutely have loved this series, and I look forward to reading this mini Christmas novella, probably this year at Christmas time. Next is Positively Cursed by Melissa Erin Jackson, and this is the second book in the Witches of Edgehill mystery series. So I've read this one. This is a cozy, fantastical mystery, and our main character is a witch and kind of runs a bit of a mishmash of a shop. I know she sells these enchanted toys that obviously people don't know are enchanted. I know she sells these like home remedies that she uses her witchy magic to brew up. And in the first one, a friend of hers is found dead with one of her home remedies in her hands, and she's the main suspect because it looks like she poisoned him. I really enjoyed the first book, immediately went out and got the second book, and absolutely love that one too. I think I enjoyed the second one even more. I really enjoyed the first 2 books in the series. We'll definitely be continuing it, and if it sounds interesting, I would recommend it because, I mean, I've already read it. I really enjoyed it, so thumbs up for me. And the last ebook I got is the Tuesday Night Survivors Club by Lynn Cahoon, which is the first book in the Tuesday Night Survivors Club series. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what this one's about. I think maybe it's a historical fiction, and again, cozy mystery, because I've really been getting into cozy mysteries. I believe this was one of the books that was an option for Barnes & Noble members, because every month they give you, if you're like a member, 5 ebooks that you can choose from, and you can use a coupon code to get one for free. And I think this was the one I chose. Based on the title, it makes me wonder if it's going to have Thursday Murder Club vibes, which if it does, I would be thrilled with because I love that series. So we shall see, but it was obviously the one that sounded most interesting at the time. Now on to audiobooks. I bought 2 audiobooks in the last 3 months of the year. The first is An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. This is the second book in the Lycanis trilogy. These audiobooks are Audible exclusive, so I have been buying them as I've been reading the books because I just do better when I have adult fantasy and I can listen along as I read. It definitely helps with the fantastical names that come up in these series, so it was a no-brainer to grab that one when I read An Echo of Things to Come. I love this series. It's a lot, and a lot of questions come up as you go through, and it's like one of those things where you have to kind of be patient to get the answers, but oh boy, as the answers start coming, it really, really, really sucks you in. So don't be surprised if you see the third one in a future haul, because I'm hoping to read that sooner rather than later, and since they're Audible exclusives, I will be buying the audiobook. And then the last audiobook I'm going to mention is actually going to tie into my first physical book, and that is Stellar Loon. So I bought the audiobook of Stellar Loon and the physical copy of Stellar Loon. This is the 9th book in the Keeper of the Lost City series. This series follows a young girl named Sophie who ends up finding out that the reason she has the ability to read minds is because she's an elf, and gets introduced to a whole entire world where she is a very important part of it. This is one of my favorite series ever, and I was so looking forward to book 9, and I had planned to wait for the audiobook, but there was a scene in here that I absolutely had to hear acted out by the voice actors, and I would love to have all of them because this feels like a series I will constantly reread, and the better I know a series, the easier it is for me to listen to an audiobook, because once I know what's going on, I don't have to pay quite as much attention. So this is a series I can see me putting on in the background while I'm cleaning or something because I know the world so well. And well, I had to have it. There was just a scene I needed to hear acted out by the voice actors, and it was worth getting the book at that point in time. This is a special Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, so I have some really cool end papers. We have some moons on the hardback, and then we have a Under the Dust Jacket art, which I thought was really pretty. Like I said, I've obviously read this. I read this shortly after I got my hands on it, and I absolutely loved it. Love this series. Cannot wait for book 10. And yeah, like, grabbing this was an absolute no-brainer. I had to have it. So to continue on with my physical books, I got a whole bunch of Aaron Hunter. So I have Shadows of the Mountain and the Venom Spreads, which are books 1 and 2 in the Curse of the Sandtongue series, which is the second arc in the Braveland series. I have Spirits in the Stars, which is book 6 in the first arc of 6 in the Seeker series. I have Islands of Shadows and Forest of Wolves, which are the first and fourth books in the second arc of 6 in the Seeker series. I got Storm of Dogs, which is book 6 in the first arc of 6 in the Survivor series. I have The Raging Storm, which is the 6th book in the A Vision of Shadows arc in the Warrior series, and I have no idea off the top of my head which arc that is. Maybe arc 6? I have A Light in the Mist, which is book 6 in the Broken Code series, which I think is arc 7. And then I have Sky, which is book 2 in the Starless Clan arc, which is the most recent arc, and I believe arc 8. So I am slowly but surely filling in my Aaron Hunter series. I've read these, I believe, and I don't think I've started the second arc in the Braveland series, and I haven't got to Sky yet. But I love all of Aaron Hunter's writing, and I am so excited to be slowly but surely filling in my Aaron Hunter shelves. Next, I got The 13th Fairy and The Stolen Slippers, which are the first 2 books in the Never After series. This follows a young girl named Philomena who ends up finding out that her favorite book series, Never After, is actually real and is a world she can travel to, and ends up going there and helping out. I've enjoyed both books in this series, and I'm very excited to have copies for my shelves. Then I grabbed The Wizards of Once, Never and Forever by Christina Cowell. This is the 4th and final book, I believe, in the Wizards of Once series. This series follows 2 kids, one who's a warrior and one who's a wizard, and their 2 kinds don't really get along, and they end up meeting and realizing maybe they had been misled. I read the first 2 books in the series, though it's been a while, and I don't want to read the back of this one because I haven't read book 3 yet. But like I said, I've read the first 2 books, which I own. I own the third one, so I figured I might as well round off the quartet by grabbing book 4. Then I grabbed The Lost Tide Warriors and the Stormkeepers Battles, which are books 2 and 3 in the Stormkeepers Island series. I read the first one ages ago, and I realized when I was doing my spreadsheet for series that I did not have access to books 2 and 3. So if I wanted to complete the series, I was going to have to buy it. And I remember really enjoying the first one. I believe it follows a young boy who ends up going to visit his grandfather on this island and learns about maybe like a curse or a prophecy that states he's somehow going to be important. Like I said, it's been a while. I don't think I read it last year. I think it was at least 2021 when I read it, if not earlier. But I do remember, from like what I can remember of it, enjoying it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been on my series to continue list. So I figured I would snag books 2 and 3 so I could continue on and finish it. Next, I grabbed Rescue on Turtle Beach, Shipwreck in Seal Bay, and Search for the Scarlet Macaws, which are the first 3 books in the Wind Rider series. So I read book 1 in one of the rounds of like 48-hour Bookopoly. And I read the ebook, which was really, really hard because, I mean, you've got like pictures. This is a younger middle grade series, but it is really focused on like conservation and how you can kind of help the planet. In the first one, they're helping baby sea turtles. I'm going to assume in the second one, they're going to be helping seals. And then in the third one, I'm guessing scarlet macaws. I thought they were such interesting reads. And I like that, I believe, if memory serves, at the end, yes, there are extras that like, so you have like the logbook, Hawaiian adventure because they end up in Hawaii, sea turtle facts, and I just thought it was interesting that they had added these, like how we help save the sea turtles, just this like interesting information which I think makes them even better for middle graders, and I really enjoyed them, so I wanted to have my own copies because, well, I enjoyed this one. I want to keep on with the series, and I enjoyed the first one enough to want to have a copy for my shelves. Then I grabbed The Forbidden Lock by Liesl Shirtliff, which is the third book in the Time Castaways series. And this is a middle grade sci-fi that involves time travel, and I really, really loved the first book. I love having a time travel aspect, and this would, I believe, round out the trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy. I have book 2 on my physical TBR, so I figured I would snag book 3 so that at some point I can complete the trilogy. Next, I grabbed The Sky Unicorn by Paula Harrison, which is book 2 in the Secret Rescuer series. This is a young middle grade series that in the first one has a young girl who rescues a baby dragon, and I believe is like a maid or some sort of employee at a castle working for like the queen and I want to say the prince, and they don't like magic or anything magical, so she's got to rescue the baby dragon. I'm assuming in this one we're rescuing a baby unicorn. I thought the first book was really cute, so I decided to snag the second one. Then I got from Book of the Month, I believe in December, Babel by R.F. Guang. So I have heard about this all over BookTube. I have seen some people who absolutely love it, some people who finished it and went, eh, some people who wanted to love it so badly and DNF'd it, and curiosity got the better of me. I don't really know much about it. I've wanted to try something by R.F. Kuang, and this one has such mixed reviews that I'm just absolutely fascinated because I kind of want to see where I'm going to fall. And since it was available through Book of the Month, I decided I would give it a shot. Next, I got Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. So this is the first book in the Wayworld Children series. And in this series, children come across doors that lead them to worlds that kind of fit them better than the world they live in. So think like, you know, going through the wardrobe in Narnia or going down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland. And this was the very first book I ever read that had an ace main character, and I related to her so much. And it made me fall in love with the series. I've been slowly filling in and trying to get every book in the series, and this was one of the ones I was missing. So when I saw the book outlet had it, I snagged it because I would love to own all of them at some point. Next, I grabbed Dark Stars and Twisted Fates by Danielle Rollins. So these are books 2 and 3 in the maybe Stolen Time. It's a sequel to Stolen Time. I own the first book, and I read it ages ago. I want to say towards the beginning of the pandemic, and I always wanted to continue on with the series, but I did not have access to them. So when I saw the book outlet had books 2 and 3, I figured I'd snag them and at some point do a reread of book 1 so I can continue on with the series. I really don't like having series that I can't complete because I can't access the books. So whenever possible, if it's a series I want to continue and I can find the books, I will grab them. But again, I think there was some sort of time travel involved in this series, though again, I'm not sure, but Stolen Time seems to suggest that there was some sort of time travel-y aspect. I would pull the book off, but it is on a shelf that is very, very hard to get at without moving things, like furniture. But I do remember, from like what I can remember of it, really enjoying the first book and wanting to continue on. So I've kind of had my eyes out for books 2 and 3 for a while now, and I finally took the plunge and snagged them. Next, I got Wayside School, Beneath the Cloud of Doom by Louise Sachar. This is the 4th book in the Wayside School series, and I own the first 3. They are childhood favorites. This was the first book I think I read in 2021? I don't think it was the first book I read in 2020. Maybe it did come out in well, no, because it came out in 2020. So yeah, 2021. It had to have been 2021 because I do not think I could have read it in 2020 if it came out in 2020. So yeah, this was the first book I read in 2021, and it had all of the same vibes that I remember and love from the Wayside School series. It was really, really nice being back with the characters, and it's really nice to have the last book and such a beloved childhood favorite, especially considering I think there was like 25 years between book 3 and book 4 being written, which is like crazy. So I definitely wanted a copy of this for my shelves. Then I grabbed Eva Evergreen and the Cursed Witch by Julie Abe. This is the second book in the Eva Evergreen series, and this follows Eva, who has a tiny pinch of magic and ends up going on a journey to help save this town, and has to figure out a way to use that tiny bit of magic she has to help the town, and ends up opening this shop to help people using her smarts and her magic to kind of cobble together helpful items that help the people of the town she's in. I really, really enjoyed the first one, and I definitely plan to continue on with the series, so it seemed to make sense to get the next book. Then I got The House of Always by Jen Lyons. This is the 4th book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. I'm slowly collecting them all. I read all 5 books in this series last year. It is a new favorite. I gave all of them 5 stars, so I'm trying to get them all in the nice floppy paperbacks, so when I saw Book Outlet had this, I needed to snag it. Cannot wait to snag book 5 because I basically finished book 5 and was already ready to do a reread. That's how much I love the series. So it would be cool to be able to do it with my own copies. Next, I got Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. This was one of the Book of the Year finalists, and it was the one that sounded most interesting to me that I didn't already have. It says, "We can't choose what we inherit, but can we choose who we become?" In present-day California, Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her 2 children, Byron and Benny. A traditional Caribbean black cake made from a family recipe with a long history, and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds, the secrets she still holds back, and the mystery of a long-lost child challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. Can Byron and Benny reclaim their once close relationship, piece together Eleanor's true history, and fulfill her final request to share the black cake when the time is right? Will their mother's revelations bring them back together or leave them feeling more lost than ever? Charmaine Wilkerson's debut novel is a story of how the inheritance of betrayals, secrets, memories, and even names can shape relationships and history. Deeply evocative and beautifully written, Black Cake is an extraordinary journey through the life of a family changed forever by the choices of its matriarch. So it sounds like it's going to have a mystery aspect and a family aspect, which is what drew me to it. It's also like a really, really cool cover with like the abstract face in all of like the waves. So I'm really, really curious to see if I enjoy this and to see why it became a Book of the Month finalist. Like, it must be a pretty well-loved book to beat out all of the other books that were released via Book of the Month. Next, I got The Swag is in the Socks by Kelly J. Baptist. This is a middle grade contemporary following Xavier Moon. And he's not one to steal the show. He's content to play a Switch and sit at his bedroom window watching the neighborhood talk outside. But for his 12th birthday, he receives a pair of show-stopping socks and a challenge from his great uncle Frankie, saying it's time to swag out and speak up. First on the list, get into legendary Scepter League. Xavier's grandfather, great uncle, and father were all invited to join the after-school elites boys club that admits only the most suave and confident young men. Xavier has never before had the courage to apply before, but his wild socks are getting him some big attention. So maybe it's time to come out of the shadows and follow in his family's footsteps. Or maybe Xavier will march down a new path altogether. So yeah, definitely sounds like a interesting contemporary where we're going to see Xavier kind of come into his own and figure out what exactly he wants out of life and whether it's to follow in the footsteps of his family or break out on his own. Next is the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dwayne Walton. I remember seeing this when it was a book of the month option and being tempted by it, but not sure. I believe it gave me Daisy Jones and the Six vibes. Yeah, we follow Opal, who is a young woman pushing back against the grain in her style and attitude, a black punk artist before her time. And she believes she can be a star, so when British singer-songwriter Neville Charles discovers her at a bar's amateur night, she takes him up on his offer to make rock music together for the fledgling Rivington Records. It's the early 70s in New York City, and just as she's finding her niche as part of a flamboyant and funky creative scene, a rival band signed to her label brandishes a Confederate flag at a promotional concert. Opal's bold protest and the violence that ensues set off a chain of events that will not only change the lives of those she loves, but also be a deadly reminder that repercussions are always harsher for women, especially black women, who dare to speak their truth. Decades later, as Opal considers a 2016 reunion with Nev, music journalist S. Sunny Shelton seizes the chance to curate an oral history about her idols. Sunny thought she knew most of the stories leading up to the cult duo's most politicized chapter, but as her interviews dig deeper, a nasty new allegation from an unexpected source threatens to blow everything up. So yeah, it definitely sounds like there could be some Daisy Jones and the Six vibes with the interview part of it. So it sounds like it could be quite interesting with the music part and the political part and kind of the historical fiction dual timeline thing. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this. Then I grabbed House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. So I don't know anything about this. I just recognize the name. It says, House of Salt and Sorrows is a spellbinding novel filled with magic and the rustle of gossamer skirts down long, dark hallways. So it kind of sounds like it's going to be a spooky fantasy with maybe a historical vibe, giving, gossamer skirts. So I don't know that I want to know much more about it because it looks like there might be mystery involved. If it is horror and you know that, let me know in the comment section below. And keep in mind I'm a big bold chicken and let me know if it may be too scary for me. But it was a book whose title I recognized. I got this out of a little free library and I figured for, free, I might as well give it a shot. Next is Color Me In by Natasha Diaz. This is following a young girl named Nevaeh who is biracial and has a black mom and a Jewish dad and is forced to confront her identity when she relocates from an affluent New York City suburb to her mom's family home in Harlem and is kind of coming to terms with her heritage and what that means for her and kind of dealing with both her Jewish heritage and her black heritage. And yeah, it's sounds like it's going to be a hard-hitting contemporary, and I like that it has both black and Jewish rep in it, so I'm hoping to enjoy it. Next is Damnation Spring by Ash Davidson. This was a book of the month that I found in a little free library, and I think, yeah, it's a historical fiction. We're following Rich Gunderson, whose family has chopped a livelihood out of the redwood forest along California's rugged coast. Now, Rich and his wife Colleen are raising their young son near Damnation Grove, a swath of ancient redwoods on which Rich's employer, Sanderson Timber Co., plans to make a killing. In 1977, with most of the forest cleared or protected, a grove like Damnation and beyond it 24/7 Ridge is a logger's dream. But logging is dangerous work, and Rich wants better for his son, Chubb. So, when the opportunity arises to buy 24/7 Ridge, costing them all the savings they squirreled away for their growing family, he grabs it unbeknownst to Colleen. Because the reality is, their family isn't growing. Colleen has lost several pregnancies, and she isn't alone. As a midwife, Colleen has seen the suffering of other women with her own eyes. For decades, the herbicides that the logging company used were considered harmless. But what if these miscarriages aren't isolated strokes of bad luck? As mudslides take out clear-cut hillsides and salmon vanish from creeks, Colleen's search for answers threatens to unravel not just Rich's plans for the 24/7, but their marriage too, dividing a town that lives and dies on timber along the way. In prose as clear as a spring-fed creek, this intimate, compassionate portrait of a community clinging to a vanishing way of life amid the perils of environmental degradation is an essential novel for our times. So yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a historical fiction with an emphasis on family and definitely a bit of a hard-hitting aspect to it. It sounded interesting. It was in a little free library, so I snagged it. Next, I grabbed Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. This is the second book in the Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series. I believe I own books 1 and 4. Maybe? I definitely own a couple books in this series, and this is the second one, so I snagged it because if I like the series, I might as well continue to collect them, especially if I'm finding them in little free libraries. Then I got Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is the second book in the Legendborn cycle, and this is a Knights of the Round Table retelling, like a King Arthur retelling, and I really, really, really loved book 1, and I'm so excited to have book 2. My only thing is that I know I kind of need to reread book 1. So I'm debating whether I want to reread book 1 and then read book 2, or whether I want to wait for book 3 to come out and then just read all 3 of them back to back to back. But I definitely needed to have it because at some point I will be reading this, and I loved book 1. So I'm hoping whenever I get around to it, I love book 2 as well. Then I found some nostalgia in a little free library because I found Jim Henson's Muppet Stories, Muppet Story Magic, and Miss Piggy's Favorite Adventures. I had completely forgotten these even existed, but the moment I saw them, I went, oh, I remember them! So I kind of had to snag them. They're not in the greatest of shape, but, you know, they'll suffice. They were given to somebody in April of 1992, because there is a dedication inside. I think when I was flipping through, I saw some crayon. Which, to be fair, when I was young, I was not the best at taking care of my books. I regret that now. I couldn't imagine doing that now. It would make my skin crawl, but, you know, that was something I had to learn as I grew up. But when I saw these, I snagged them because I thought it would be fun to walk down memory lane. And I feel like I've taken a part in several readathons that are middle grade themed, where one of the prompts is read a book from your childhood. So this could be an easy way to fulfill said prompts, so I snagged them. Next, I've got The Perfect Score by Rob Bouyea. This is a middle grade contemporary that says sometimes kids do the wrong things for the right reasons. No one likes the statewide assessment test, not the kids in Mrs. Wood's 6th grade class, not even Mrs. Wood's. It's not as if everyone doesn't already have enough to worry about. With test time approaching, the whole school is in a frenzy. Students, teachers, and administration. When one of the kids has a big idea for acing the test, they're all in. But things get ugly before they get better, and in the end, the real meaning of the perfect score surprises them all. So yeah, middle grade contemporary, it sounded interesting. This might have been one of the books I got from the Kellogg's program, because some of them did come in like October, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of lesson they learn, and I'm always down for a good middle grade contemporary, especially as my little ones get closer to that age. I love being able to have a bunch of recommendations for them, so I'm excited to check this one out. Then I got Isaiah Dunn is My Hero by Kelly J. Baptist. And it says, in her stirring debut novel, Kelly J. Baptist explores the indomitable spirit of Isaiah Dunn, a boy who, in the wake of family tragedy, leans on a love of words and his community discover the superhero strength it takes to grow up. So again, a contemporary that will probably have some sort of hard-hitting aspect to it since we're talking family tragedy, and I'm curious to see what kind of growth Isaiah Dunn has in this book. Then I got History Smashers, Women's Right to Vote by Kate Mesner. These are another series of middle grade nonfiction, and I'm assuming this is going to be about, well, the women's right to vote. It says, in 1920, Susan B. Anthony passed a law that gave voting rights to women in the United States. Right? Wrong. Susan B. Anthony wasn't even alive when the 19th Amendment was ratified. Plus, it takes a lot more than one person to amend the Constitution. The truth is, it took millions of women to get that amendment into law. They marched, they picketed, they even went to jail. But in the end, it all came down to a letter from a state representative's mom. No joke. Discover the nonfiction series that smashes everything you thought you knew about history. This was definitely one that came from the Kellogg's program, and I'm very, very curious to read about it. I'm definitely, as my little ones get older, looking for more books that I can recommend. So having a couple of different nonfiction series that will teach them things is definitely ones that will be on my radar. Then I got Doodleville by Chad Sell. This is a graphic novel that follows a young girl named Drew who loves to doodle, and her doodles end up coming to life, and they're really representative of her emotions. I really, really enjoyed this graphic novel. I think the art style is really cool as well, with like all of her doodles. So it's definitely a graphic novel I could see myself rereading. So I figured I'd snag a copy, and I'm looking forward to reading book 2 at some point. Then I got Again and Again by E. Lockhart. It says, if you could live your life again, what would you do differently? It's told in a lyrical multiverse of different timelines, and it's an inventive romantic tale that follows Adelaide as she falls in and out of love 1,000 times, while finally confronting the secrets she keeps, her ideas about love, and a weird grandiosity of the human mind. So it sounds like it's going to have a bit of a kind of a time travel-y twist. I don't know if it's something I'm going to like, but it sounded interesting enough, so I figured I'd give it a try. Next, I got The First Rule of Punk by Celia C. Perez. This says, there are no shortcuts to surviving your first day at a new school. On day 1, Malu, Maria Luisa if you want to annoy her, inadvertently upsets Posada Middle School's queen bee, violates the school's dress code, and disappoints her mom in the process. Her dad, who now lives 1,000 miles away, says things will get better as long as she remembers the first rule of punk, be yourself. The real Malu loves rock music, skateboarding, zines, and soy rizzo. Hold the cilantro, please. And when she assembles a group of like-minded misfits at school and starts a band, Malu finally begins to feel at home. She'll do anything to preserve this, which includes standing up to anti-punk school administration to fight for her right to express herself. I love the idea of reading a contemporary where we're really going to be focusing on, be yourself, embrace who you are, love who you are. So this sounds like it's going to be a fun novel, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Malu fights back. Next, I grabbed Brian's Winter by Gary Paulson. This is, I want to say, the third book in the Hatchet series. It's the sequel to the sequel of Hatchet. I absolutely love Hatchet. I read it when I was in school, and I don't think I ever read any of the other books, so I'm very, very curious to see what happens in this one, though I have a book in between, but I thought it would be another fun one to kind of read at some point when I'm looking for, like, a book from your childhood. Next, I grabbed The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell, the 10th Anniversary Illustrated Edition by Chris Colfer. So this is the really fancy, like, it's got gold edges, and the pages are all, like, illustrated. Like, they're made of a completely different kind of paper, but you have illustrations throughout. It's got one of those fancy ribbons that you can use, which is really, really cool. There is a fairy on the naked hardcover. I absolutely adore this series and Chris Colfer's writing, so there was no way I wasn't grabbing a copy of the illustrated edition for my shelves. It was just a no-brainer, and I look forward to the next time I reread this, doing it so with the illustrated edition and getting to add the illustrations in and kind of add that depth to the story. Next, I grabbed A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. This is about a autistic girl who gets really into the witch trials and kind of draws some parallels there and is really focused on them. I absolutely loved this book. I really enjoyed getting to learn about Addie and seeing her fascination with the witch trials and learning more about them from Addie's point of view and getting to see autistic representation. This is a brilliant middle grade contemporary. I'm so excited to have a copy for my shelf so that I can reread it at some point. Next, I grabbed The World's Most Intriguing True Mysteries, 33 Strange and Baffling Events That Continue to Mystify. I love hearing about, like, mysterious happenings and wondering how they kind of came about. I found this in a little free library, so we have The Most Haunted House in England, The Fate of Count Kongismark, The True Maid of France, among others. It sounded like it could be an interesting read, so for the price of free, I snagged it. Then I got Forward Me Back to You by Matali Perkins. This says, you can't rewind life, sometimes you just have to push play. Katina King is the reigning teen jiu-jitsu champion of Northern California, but she's having trouble fighting off the secrets in her past. Robin Thornton was adopted from an orphanage in India and is reluctant to take on his future. If he can't find his roots, how can he possibly pick a college? Ramen and Kat meet in the most unlikely of circumstances and find themselves signing up for a summer service trip to Kolkata to work with survivors of human trafficking. As bonds build among the travelers, both teens discover that justice and healing are intertwined. Like the pain in their past and their hopes of the future, the only way for Kat or Robin to move forward might just be in service to each other. In turns, heart-wrenching, beautiful, and buoyant, Matali Perkins' new novel focuses on the rippling effects of violence across borders and generations, and how small acts of heroism can help break the cycle. So yeah, sounds like it's going to be an interesting, maybe contemporary YA, and I'm very curious to see what these character stories are and how they meet and how it affects them. Then I grabbed Amy Among the Serial Killers by Jinsey Willett. I believe this is the third book in a series, so I don't really know what it's about. I don't really want to know what it's about because, like I said, third book in the series, but I mean, the title is Amy Among the Serial Killers. That's what got me. I grabbed this out of a little free library based on the title alone because I want to know why she's among the serial killers. So at some point, I will have to read the first book so I can get to this one and even decide if I want to stick around long enough to read this one, but man, that title just drew me and I had to have it. Next, I got Things Seen from Above by Shelley Pearsall. This is, again, I want to say a middle grade contemporary. It says April Boxler just wants out of 6th grade, so she volunteers to be a buddy bench monitor for the 4th grade recess in order to escape all the gossip and drama at lunch. Joey Bird, a 4th grader, has learned that the best way to deal with people is to avoid them. During recess, he prefers to wander around the playground, making lines in the dirt with his feet. Usually, nobody notices or cares. When the buddy bench brings these two outcasts together, the surprising purpose of Joey's mysterious lines begins to emerge. But what do they really mean, and should April share what they discover? The answers may just change the way you see the world. So again, sounds like an interesting middle grade contemporary, and I'm curious to see what the lines mean. Then I got The House That Lou Built by May Respicio. This follows Lou, who's going to build her dream house, and she shares a room with her mom in her grandmother's house in San Fran and longs for a place of her own, where she can escape her lovable but large Filipino family. Her solution, a tiny house, 100 square feet all to herself, that she'll construct on the land she inherited from her dad. Then Lou discovers that it's not so easy to build a house, not when her beautiful land may not be hers for much longer, and her mom may want to move them out of state. But she won't give up on her dream, and her friends and family won't give up on her either. So, family vibes, friendship vibes, contemporary. I'm very curious to see if she actually manages to build the house, and it sounded like another interesting book. Next, I grabbed Katie the Cat Sitter by Stephanie Yu. This is a graphic novel about Katie, who ends up cat sitting for her upstairs neighbor who has 217 cats, and they're not exactly regular ones. And Madeline only seems to go out exactly when the Mousetress, the city's most notorious villain, commits a crime. So Katie begins to wonder if the neighbor she's cat sitting for is the villain, and she has to try to crack this case while also dealing with all of these crazy kitties. It sounded right up my alley. I mean, graphic novel, superheroes, cats. What more could you want out of a book? Next, I got Mr. Tearup Falls Again by Rob Bouyeya. This is the sequel to Because of Mr. Tearup. I hauled that in my last haul. It's a middle grade contemporary that I think focuses on 5 very different kids who are all in the same 5th grade class, and I believe Mr. Tearup is their substitute teacher, so I'm curious to see how the story continues in book 2. Then I got We Are Not From Here by Jenny Torres Sanchez. It says, Pulga has his dreams, Chico has his grief, Pequeña has her pride, and these 3 teens have one another, but none of them have illusions about the town they've grown up in and the dangers that surround them. Even with the love of family, threats lurk around every corner, and when those threats become all too real, the trio knows they have no choice but to run. From their country, from their families, from their beloved home. Crossing from Guatemala through Mexico, they follow the route of La Bestia, the perilous train system that might deliver them to a better life, if they are lucky enough to survive the journey. With nothing but the bags on their backs and desperation drumming through their hearts, Pulga, Chico, and Pequeña know there is no turning back despite the unknown that awaits them and the darkness that seems to follow them wherever they go. In the striking portrait of Lives Torn Apart, the plight of migrants at the U.S. southern border is brought to light through poignant, vivid storytelling, an epic journey of danger, resilience, heartache, and hope. This definitely sounds like a hard-hitting contemporary that is very relevant to things that are going on now, so I'm quite looking forward to reading this. We're getting there, guys. We're almost done. Next, I got The Saturdays by Elizabeth Enright. This is another one that I found in a little free library, and we're following 4 Melon-Day children who live with their father and Cuffy, their beloved housekeeper, in a warm but comfortable brownstone in New York City. There's 13-year-old Mona, who has decided to become an actress, 12-year-old mischievous Rush, 10-and-a-half-year-old Randy, who loves to dance and paint, and thoughtful Oliver, who is just 6. Tired of wasting Saturdays doing nothing but wishing for larger allowances, the 4 Melon-Days jump at Randy's idea to start the Independent Saturday Afternoon Adventure Club, also known as Isaac. If they pool their resources and take turns spending the whole amount, They can each have at least one memorable Saturday afternoon of their own. Before long, Isaac is in operation, and every Saturday is definitely one to remember. So, family vibes. Sounds like they're all going to be working together to have some fun Saturdays, which sounds like a great way to spend a weekend. And again, the nice family vibes of they've decided to make sure that they all get to have some fun. Very curious to see what the kids get up to. Then I got The World According to Humphrey, Friendship According to Humphrey, Trouble According to Humphrey, and Surprises According to Humphrey, which are the first 4 books in the According to Humphrey series. And these are told from the perspective of a classroom hamster. That sold me. I don't believe I've ever read a book told from a hamster's POV, but I love animal POV books. I found all 4 of these in a little free library, so I figured I'd snag them and give this series a try. Then I found The Janitor's Boy and A Week in the Woods by Andrew Clements. These are both standalones by him. I vaguely feel like I've read something by him when I was younger, because it says the author of Frindle, and I feel like I might have read that as a child. I don't know what either of these about, but I think they're both contemporaries, and I'm curious to see if I enjoy them, because again, I have no idea if I've read them before or not. Let's see, when were they published? This one was published in 2000, so I would have been 13? And this one was published in 2002, so I would have been 15? So probably not, because I think by that point I was reading adult books, but I definitely believe I've read something by him before, so I figured I'd give these 2 a shot. Then I got Girls Who Code Spotlight on Coding Club by Michelle Schusterman. This was the last book I got from the Kellogg's reading program, and this is about girls who do coding. I believe I own book 2 maybe in this series. And it just sounds like such an interesting book, and I believe at the time, I was super excited when I saw this as an option because they had just talked about the fact that this book had been banned. And I think it was mainly because of the fact that there is a diverse cast of characters. I mean, look at the girls and you can see the diversity just on the cover. And, it might also be because they don't want to encourage girls to go into coding because maybe they believe that's not something girls should be doing. Who knows? I have no idea why we're banning some of the books we're banning these days. But yeah, seeing that it was banned just made me want to grab it more. And I am very, very curious about the series. I'm hoping to get to it at some point this year because, well, 1, it sounded interesting, and 2, the idea of a book being banned just makes me want to read it more. Then I got The Amazing Flight of Darius Frobisher by Bill Harley. This says, one night in his dreams, Darius climbed on the newly repaired bicycle and pedaled madly. The bike went faster and faster, and then suddenly Darius was in the air, pedaling over the houses and roads, looking down at the earth beneath him. So, yeah, it looks like we're going to follow a kid who has a flying bicycle. Sounds like it could be a fun middle grade. Not sure what else is going to be going on other than a kid with a flying bike, but I think anybody who has ever seen the movie E.T. has wanted to ride a flying bicycle at some point or another, so should be a fun read. Then I got Christmas Miracle Pets, Animals Who Save the Day by Alan Zullo, and I believe these are all true stories about animals who save the day at Christmas time. It's a nonfiction, so I will probably read this maybe in December, because, Christmas. I like the idea of hearing about animals. We have a stray dog who helps a man rediscover his Christmas spirit and brings holiday magic to hundreds of children. A boy who rescues an adorable piglet on Christmas Eve and finds much more than just a home for the little orphan. An abandoned rabbit makes a special Christmas wish come true for a sick little girl. So, sounds like there's going to be some interesting Christmas tales. There's a Beanie. Say hi, Beanie. No? She's not interested in saying hi to you all. That's what I was looking at, though. I wanted to show you. And then the last book I have hauled in the last 3 months of 2022 was The Mouse Hunter by Alex Milway. This says, across the 17 seas, there is no mouse hunting pirate half as feared as the legendary Captain Mousebeard. He seeks out the rarest and most precious breeds of mice to collect and trade, his fearsome reputation preceding him wherever he goes. Emmeline, mousekeeper to one of Old Town's wealthiest citizens, is anything but feared. So when her master puts a bounty on Mousebeard's head, she sees it as the chance of a lifetime. Her journey takes her on a high seas adventure filled with swords and sea monsters, betrayal, lies, and the chance to capture the most dangerous man in mousing history. This sounds like it's going to be a fun adventure tale, and it looks like our main character, Emmeline, has a mouse companion, so it will always be good for an animal companion prompt. It sounded like it could be a fun adventure novel, and yeah, looking forward to checking it out. So that's it. Those are all the books I hauled in the last 3 months of 2022. There's way too many of them. I'm surrounded by books. I'm sure you got a bit of a look at that when I showed you Beanie. Now I have to put them all away. Hopefully, I will do better in 2023 about buying books, because I have way too many as it is. I mean, granted, a lot of these I got for free, so I've been really utilizing my little free libraries, because I've had all of these books I've unhauled, and they've just been sitting around my house. So a lot of these I managed to snag, and they were fun finds as I checked out the little free libraries in my area, but there's no way I can read as fast as I'm hauling them. So hopefully I'll slow down a smidge in 2023. So that's it for this haul. I would love to know if you think I should prioritize any of these books. Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is listed in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me book emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!